Swear to God, John, if the CIA had anything to do with this, I'm gonna end some careers around here. No, I want the truth.
Well, we don't have much, but it appears that Oswald had some contact with the CIA a few years
You're
back.
telling me that the president's killer worked for you?
Very briefly. It was all tied up in that Cuban mess.
Was he working alone?
We don't know.
Well, find out.
We're into it.
Where was our intelligence on this? How could this happen?
It's not clear. Things are
Yeah,
very...
I know how things are. Now you just see to it I get some answers.
In 1959, the Italian Mafia stood as the paramount force in organized crime, having weathered the storm of the Kefauver and McLennan hearings. Its pervasive influence extended beyond mere criminal enterprises, infiltrating the very fabric of American institutions. The Mafia's tenacious grip reached into the corridors of power, corrupting not only the FBI but also forging alliances with the CIA since the mid-1950s. A sinister undertone existed in their collaboration with the IRS, manipulating certain agents to target perceived threats within organized crime, such as the case of Waxy Gordon. Remarkably, figures like Jake Lansky, Meyer Lansky, and Luciano orchestrated alliances with IRS agents, strategically employing the tax evasion charge to incarcerate individuals like Waxy Gordon. Their nefarious reach even extended to the highest echelons of the judiciary, as they succeeded in corrupting prominent judges across the nation. Washington itself became a puppet in their hands, and they emerged as the most influential lobbying force in the United States during that era. Controlling the Teamsters Union granted the Mafia unprecedented power, capable of paralyzing the nation with a mere snap of their fingers. The union's funds, intertwined with organized crime, became a tool for manipulating elections, ensuring candidates sympathetic to the Mafia's cause were financially backed. Within the ranks of the Mafia, there existed high-ranking members who, despite their criminal affiliations, engaged in seemingly benevolent acts. Yet juxtaposed against these figures were sadistic killers and notorious criminals like Mad Sam DeStefano and Sam Giancana, whose deeds echo through history. While these infamous names are well known today, one can only speculate about the myriad psychotic killers who operated in the shadows, eluding discovery and evading the pages of historical documentation. The power and reach of organized crime during this period were not merely confined to criminal enterprises, but extended insidiously into the very heart of American governance and society. Today, as we study and appreciate the historical accounts of organized crime, we are keenly aware of the perils posed by such criminal entities. Our understanding is shaped by a particular administration that bravely confronted these formidable adversaries, inadvertently unleashing a torrent of unforeseen dangers. In the annals of this struggle, Robert Kennedy emerges as a central figure, a man who would eventually question the wisdom of challenging such a potent force. Kennedy, who would later declare an all-out war on organized crime, found himself grappling with the unintended consequences of his bold stance. In hindsight, he reflected on whether he should have dared to take on such a formidable and entrenched adversary. The Pandora's box of horrors that unfolded in the wake of his administration's efforts became a sobering reminder of the complexity and gravity of engaging with the powerful and shadowy world of organized crime. The Kennedy family, embarking on a crusade against the Italian Mafia, unearthed revelations that cast a glaring spotlight on the pervasive menace of organized crime and its profound threat to the public. Their efforts not only brought crucial awareness to the issue, but also laid bare the formidable power wielded by these criminal figures. The uncovering of systemic corruption, extending its tentacles into Washington and various lobbying circles, revealed the extent of control these men exercised. The Kennedy-led investigations exposed a network of influence that reached into the highest echelons of power. A particular focus of disdain for Robert Kennedy was reserved for lobbyists connected to Vice President Johnson and Carlos Marcello. Notably, figures like Irving Davidson, intertwined with individuals such as Bobby Baker and Jimmy Hoffa, drew Kennedy's ire. The intricate web of connections formed a complex tapestry of gangsters, corruption, and mafiosi, a veritable spider's web that gripped the corridors of power with insidious force. Robert F. Kennedy found himself at a crossroads when he stumbled upon information that could incriminate Sam Giancana and potentially lead to his imprisonment. However, as he prepared to act on this intelligence and apprehend Giancana, an unexpected revelation altered the landscape. The CIA approached Kennedy, disclosing their collaboration with Giancana in the pursuit of ousting Castro from power. This revelation left Kennedy in a state of frustration, torn between the pursuit of justice and the complex geopolitical considerations at play. Despite Kennedy's demand that the CIA cease its association with Giancana, certain elements, including third-party contractors, persisted in their collaboration. The Kennedys remained unaware of the deep entrenchment of the CIA and other segments of American and foreign intelligence agencies, with organized crime figures operating behind seemingly legitimate fronts. The collaboration between the CIA and the Mafia extended beyond the singular goal of eliminating Castro. It encompassed illicit activities such as money laundering, weapons trafficking, and various schemes aimed at combating communism while simultaneously generating profits through fraudulent transactions. Kennedy, unwittingly, had stirred a hornet's nest of crime and gangsters, navigating a treacherous path without a clear understanding of the intricate alliances at play. Despite the complexities, every step taken by Robert F. Kennedy unveiled long-guarded secrets. By 1961, he initiated the deportation of Carlos Marcello, marking a decisive move in his relentless pursuit of justice and the exposure of the clandestine connections between intelligence agencies and organized crime. In a bold move, Robert F. Kennedy orchestrated the apprehension and subsequent deportation of Carlos Marcello, the notorious mob boss of Louisiana. Marcello stood as one of the most formidable and affluent figures in America, heading the oldest crime family in the nation. Historically, when Charles "Lucky" Luciano sought to corrupt politicians and influence the presidency, his efforts culminated in his imprisonment within a mere 4 years. However, the landscape differed in the South, particularly under the watch of John Nance Garner, the vice president to Franklin D. Roosevelt. Garner, a Texan, ensured that the influence of the Southern mob remained untouched and unscathed by the pressures faced by FDR's attacks on organized crime and corruption. In this historical context, emphasizes the enduring challenges faced by law enforcement officials like Robert F. Kennedy, as they navigated the intricate webs of power and corruption woven by influential figures within organized crime and their political allies. Chicago mobsters faced relentless targeting and imprisonment during the mid-20th century, with notable figures like Al Capone, Paul Ricca, and Frank Nitti serving as high-profile examples. Meanwhile, Tony Accardo managed to evade prosecution in the 40s. In New York, mobsters were similarly targeted, imprisoned, and even exiled. However, the Southern mob, a formidable force capable of shaping or shattering presidencies, remained largely untouched. The crucial role of the South in presidential elections made challenging these influential figures a risky proposition. Understanding the strategic importance of the Southern vote, figures like Frank Costello sought political protection, finding an ally in the formidable Huey Long. Long, a figure even feared by FDR, had connections to the New Orleans Mafia, later becoming associated with the crime family led by Carlos Marcello. Costello, recognizing the power dynamics at play, shifted many of his gambling enterprises to Louisiana. By the 1940s, the southern states had transformed into hubs for gambling, prostitution, narcotics trafficking, and more. New York's investments poured into this lucrative enterprise, with the Vegas desert in Nevada emerging as the iconic gambling haven we recognize today. In a testament to the Mafia's influence, Benjamin Siegel ventured into the desert during World War II, defying national rationing trends to build his casino. The Mafia's instrumental role in turning the Nevada desert into a gambling paradise showcased their unmatched power. As the 1960s dawned, the Mafia stood atop the world, having weathered the storms of the Kefauver hearings, the McLennan investigations, and the Appalachian disaster. Their survival through these challenges underscored the enduring strength and resilience of organized crime during this tumultuous period. By the late 50s, a seismic shift in the organized crime landscape was evident. Luciano, having relinquished his position as boss, no longer held sway within the Mafia. The new powerhouses emerged, notably the Chicago outfit and the Southern Mafia, with Gambino ascending to power in New York. Concurrently, the world found itself entangled in conflicts against communism, narcotics trafficking, and the regulation of vice and prostitution. In April of 1961, Carlos Marcello was apprehended and deported, marking the initial salvo in the Kennedy administration's campaign against organized crime. The Bay of Pigs operation, launched within weeks, proved disastrous, leaving thousands captured and hundreds dead. With hundreds of millions of pounds invested in Cuba practically going down the drain, these events signaled that the war was not merely against Castro, but had inadvertently escalated to include the Kennedy administration. The failure of the Bay of Pigs operation intensified the conflict, making it clear that organized crime was now squarely in the crosshairs of the Kennedy administration. The landscape of power within the Mafia was evolving, and the ensuing years would witness a dynamic interplay between law enforcement and the criminal underworld as the fight against organized crime continued to unfold. The Kennedy administration launched an all-out offensive against the Mafia, employing unprecedented surveillance and wiretapping techniques that took the criminal syndicate by surprise. Robert Kennedy, in charge of the campaign, authorized the use of illegal wiretaps and surveillance methods that the Mafia had never encountered before. With relentless determination, Robert instructed the FBI to target every mob boss in every state, leveraging a list from the infamous Appalachian meeting. This directive extended beyond the criminal figures. It encompassed a comprehensive crackdown on politicians, judges, senators, councilmen, aldermen and political officials at various levels who were connected to organized crime. The intensity of the operation reached even into the corridors of power, implicating public officials across different tiers of government. To ensure a thorough investigation, the CIA was put on notice, warned against trusting or collaborating with individuals tied to organized crime. The FBI, under Robert's guidance, embarked on a sweeping inquiry, probing not only the criminal elements, but also exposing and scrutinizing the political and public officials entangled with the Mafia. HQ, the public humiliation of J. Edgar Hoover, head of the FBI, was an integral part of the strategy. The media played a crucial role in disseminating information about the investigations, ensuring that every news page became a platform for highlighting the administration's unwavering commitment to dismantling organized crime. The Kennedy administration's multifaceted approach aimed not only at crippling the criminal underworld, but also at purging corruption and criminal influence from the highest echelons of government. Despite warnings about the dangers and pace of his actions, Robert Kennedy persisted in his aggressive approach against organized crime. He encountered resistance, notably from figures like J. Edgar Hoover, who staunchly denied the existence of organized crime on American soil. However, each day of Robert Kennedy's tenure dismantled this notion, unraveling extensive corruption at all levels of government. In the face of opposition, Robert pressed the FBI to intensify its efforts against various mobsters. Hoover, initially reluctant, found himself compelled to shift his stance under the relentless pressure. He instructed his agents to target prominent figures such as Gambino, Giancana, Marcello, Trafficante, Lucchese, Bonanno, and Buffalino. The directive extended to New York families and reached into the heart of Chicago, homing in on the likes of Sam Giancana. As the focus expanded to the south, a region where Hoover faced internal dissent, agents stationed there expressed a deep disdain for the FBI director. A Time magazine article exposed Hoover's practice of assigning agents he disliked to Louisiana as a form of punishment, believing the challenging weather conditions would serve as retribution. Paradoxically, this strategy backfired, as agents in Louisiana developed a friendly relationship with organized crime figures, particularly with Carlos Marcello. Marcello, seizing the opportunity, assisted these agents and provided them with relatively straightforward cases, eventually earning their favor and potentially influencing their perspectives on Hoover. Contrary to Hoover's intent, agents found Louisiana, particularly New Orleans, to be a vibrant and appealing assignment rather than a punishment. Regis Kennedy, a prominent agent in Louisiana, perpetuated the notion that Carlos Marcello was merely a tomato salesman for a significant period. This portrayal, while downplaying Marcello's criminal activities, reflects the complex interplay of relationships, conflicting agendas, and the nuanced dynamics between law enforcement and organized crime during this tumultuous period. Jim Garrison was the district attorney of New Orleans, and he always stated Carlos Marcello was a tomato salesman. Carlos Marcello's deportation was a pivotal moment in his escalating conflict alongside Santo Trafficante. Marcello issued explicit threats as early as 1961. They boldly asserted that if Kennedy were to set foot in Dallas, his life would be in imminent danger. These menacing declarations underscored the gravity of the vendetta between organized crime figures and the Kennedy administration. The tensions had reached a point where public threats were being issued, adding a chilling dimension to an already complex and high-stakes confrontation. Upon Carlos Marcello's return after his deportation, he was met with adulation from Cuban exiles who harbored deep resentment toward Kennedy for his handling of the Bay of Pigs invasion. Marcello, astute in understanding the national repercussions of assassinating a president, adopted a patient approach. He positioned himself in the background, cognizant that the volatile political climate and simmering discontent could potentially play into his hands. Marcello's strategic decision to bide his time reflected a shrewd understanding of the complexities surrounding the aftermath of the Bay of Pigs and the sentiments within certain communities. Carlos Marcello was well aware that he couldn't make a move of this magnitude on his own. His battle was uniquely his own, and the rest of the Mafia reminded him of that fact. Despite facing deportation, he understood the need to confront this challenger solo. However, Marcello was not the only Mafia boss contending with deportation. Russell Buffalino, for instance, faced a similar fate. It was only through the intervention of steadfast friends like Frank Sheeran and his own cousin that Buffalino managed to avoid deportation. The plight of these bosses underscored the shared challenges within the Mafia ranks. Marcello's situation was emblematic of a broader struggle faced by numerous Italian-American mob leaders. Marcello's formidable presence in the organized crime landscape couldn't be underestimated. A man driven not solely by financial gain, but by notions of honor, respect, and the preservation of his position as boss. Marcello wielded considerable power. Earning an average of over $1.5 billion from his rackets, he retained a mere fraction for himself. The bulk of the funds was distributed among his men, poured into the streets, or employed in corrupt practices. This massive financial influence swayed elections and secured loyalty, with the entire southern region aligning itself with him. To challenge Carlos Marcello was to challenge the very fabric of the South and its entanglement with the industries under his control. The enormity of his reach extended beyond personal power, making any confrontation with Marcello a complex and formidable undertaking. The shift in dynamics, where various mobsters were crossing paths, was a consequence of a multifaceted mafia war. However, Carlos Marcello's approach to this conflict was distinctive. Unlike other mobsters who faced direct targeting, Marcello, having successfully corrupted his entire state, operated from a vantage point where he strategically observed the battlefield, patiently waiting to make his move. His focus went beyond traditional mob rivalries. He aimed to turn every conceivable party into an asset that would serve his interests. For the following 2 years after 1961, Marcello bided his time, carefully plotting the assassination of Kennedy. This period of waiting and plotting allowed him to consolidate his influence, solidify alliances, and set the stage for a calculated and clandestine move that would have far-reaching consequences. Marcello's war was characterized by a patient and strategic approach, utilizing the networks of corruption he had meticulously woven over the years to achieve his ultimate objective. As the Mafia war unfolded, Carlos Marcello adopted a strategic stance by positioning himself in the background. One notable move to fortify his position was turning the tables on Robert Kennedy. Upon his return, Marcello orchestrated a counter-offensive, initiating legal proceedings against Kennedy for what he deemed an illegal deportation from the United States. Marcello's focus shifted towards a war with the Immigration and Naturalization Service, INS. By leveraging legal avenues, he aimed to not only challenge the deportation, but also to undermine Kennedy's credibility and authority. This calculated maneuver showcased Marcello's adeptness at exploiting legal frameworks to wage his own form of warfare, creating a complex and multifaceted battleground in the ongoing conflict between the Mafia and the Kennedy administration. Marcello, in his strategic maneuvering against Kennedy, forged alliances with senators who shared his animosity toward the Kennedy administration. These alliances extended across party lines, encompassing both Republicans and Democrats who harbored a disdain for Kennedy. Among these senators was James Oliver Eastland, a prominent figure on the Democratic side. By building a coalition of senators with a shared agenda, Marcello aimed to amplify his influence and garner political support against Kennedy. This bipartisan collaboration underscored the depth of Marcello's efforts to use political channels to further his own objectives and counter the Kennedy administration's actions. After Kennedy's assassination, this same senator, working alongside certain individuals like those within the CIA involved in plans to eliminate Castro, seized the opportunity to undermine the Kennedy administration. His objective was not only to embarrass the memory of John F. Kennedy, but also to tarnish the reputation of his brother, Robert. This senator, aware of various affairs and scandals, was willing to employ any means necessary to sully the Kennedy name. The true target wasn't merely John F. Kennedy, rather, it was his brother Robert, who had been a persistent thorn in the side of organized crime figures like Carlos Marcello. The post-assassination political landscape became a battleground where personal vendettas and political machinations converged, further complicating the intricate web of power, corruption, and retribution. He aligned himself with a coalition of individuals who shared a strong dislike for Kennedy, including Bobby Baker, Irving Davidson, Jack Wasserman, and Jimmy Hoffa. This alliance sought to collaborate with Cuban exile front movements that were operating in tandem with the CIA. Notably, these movements had established connections with various FBI agents, among them Guy Bannister. To support their shared objectives, Marcello orchestrated the transfer of funds to these Cuban exile groups. Simultaneously, he began recruiting and hiring individuals sympathetic to their cause, including figures like David Ferry and Guy Bannister himself. Rumors circulated that Marcello's association with individuals like David Ferry dated back to the 50s, when Carlos Marcello was involved in purchasing land and facilitating its transfer to the CIA for training mercenaries. This intricate web of connections and collaborations highlighted Marcello's proactive efforts to shape events and alliances that aligned with his interests in the post-Kennedy assassination era. During the Second World War, as Luciano faced imprisonment, he collaborated with naval intelligence on the famous Underworld project, aimed at safeguarding American docks in New York against potential German sabotage and theft. However, a lesser-known aspect is that a significant number of soldiers and military equipment, including artillery, moved out of Louisiana rather than New York. This revealed a robust alliance between the Southern Mafia and naval intelligence, extending beyond the widely recognized collaboration in New York. The connection between the Southern Mafia and intelligence agencies extended further, reaching the Vegas desert. Here, military activities included nuclear bomb experiments and various flight training operations. The alliance between intelligence agencies and the Southern Mafia wasn't solely about protecting secrets, but also aimed at safeguarding soldiers and military assets. This was particularly crucial in Nevada, where concerns about soldiers engaging in gambling activities could compromise military operations. Unlike New York, where the link with naval intelligence ceased after World War II, the alliance in the South persisted. Throughout the 50s, 60s, and 70s, this connection remained remarkably strong, showcasing a unique and enduring collaboration that played a pivotal role in shaping the dynamics between organized crime and intelligence agencies in the southern United States. In this series, we will embark on a journey through the history of organized crime, starting with the foundational figure, Charlie "Lucky" Luciano. Luciano's story will serve as the cornerstone, providing insight into the names that played pivotal roles in the evolution of organized crime in New York. As we delve into the 60s, we will encounter influential figures like Mike Miranda, Vito Genovese, Joe Bonanno, Tommy L., Carlo Gambino, Joseph Colombo, Santo Trafficante Jr., Russell Buffalino, Joe Profici, and others, recognizing that their roots trace back to the 30s and 40s. These men, who emerged as powerhouses in the 60s, were instrumental in shaping the landscape of organized crime. These figures, among others, played significant roles in the complex and dynamic world of organized crime during this era. Having established the foundation with Charlie "Lucky" Luciano, our journey through the history of organized crime now turns to Frank Costello. Widely recognized as the Prime Minister of organized crime, Costello's legacy extends beyond criminal enterprises. We will delve into the intricacies of his influence and explore why he earned this moniker. Frank Costello played a pivotal role in shaping not only the underworld, but also in orchestrating political corruption that echoes through our understanding of organized crime today. By examining Costello's strategies, alliances, and the extent of his reach, we aim to unravel the intricate web of connections between the criminal underworld and the political sphere. Join us as we navigate through the life and impact of Frank Costello, a key architect in defining the landscape of organized crime and its intersection with political corruption. Next, in our exploration of organized crime history, we turn our attention to Benjamin Siegel, a captivating figure who held a prominent place among my favorite mobsters. Within this narrative, we'll also delve into the complex relationship he shared with Meyer Lansky, a man he considered close, but who would ultimately betray him. Meyer Lansky emerges as a pivotal figure in the mob's operations for a myriad of reasons. He was not only a transportation genius and mathematical wizard, but also a crucial player in the world of money laundering and banking. During the 50s, as the landscape of banking and asset protection underwent significant changes, elite individuals and organized crime members sought ways to conceal their assets and money in foreign bank accounts, most notably in Switzerland, the Canary Islands, and places like the Panama Islands, thus shielding them from taxation. Lansky's influence went beyond his individual dealings. He played a crucial role in instructing the Italian Mafia in the art of money laundering. This involved channeling funds into various industries, creating a web of financial connections that would prove instrumental in corruption and other facets of organized crime. Lansky's teachings paved the way for individuals like Luciano and Costello, who in turn transmitted this knowledge within the Mafia. The underlying principle Lansky emphasized was clear. Without a robust financial foundation, corruption and the expansion of organized crime would be significantly constrained. Join us as we unravel the complexities of this financial mastermind's contributions to the underworld. Following the exploration of Meyer Lansky, our journey through the history of organized crime culminates with the ultimate figure, Carlo Gambino. With this, we conclude our investigation into the intricate world of New York mobsters, gaining a comprehensive understanding of their legacies and influence. Transitioning from New York, our focus will shift to Chicago, honing in on the Chicago outfit, particularly Tony Joe Batters, Accardo. In my perspective, the Chicago outfit stands as the KGB of the Mafia, holding sway from Chicago to California, extending its influence across Middle America and the vibrant streets of Vegas. The Chicago outfit boasted a roster of formidable and lethal individuals, including notorious figures like Mad Sam DeStefano, who played a pivotal role in training other infamous personalities such as Sam Giancana and Tony the Ant Spilotro. Collaborating closely with their counterparts in New York, the Chicago outfit asserted control over California, exercising a significant grip on the movie industry in both Chicago and California. Additionally, they maintained a firm hold on various unions, with key players like Alan Dorfman facilitating insurance endeavors. Moreover, their influence was indispensable in the casino business. To build a casino in America, one required not only financial backing, but also the approval of figures like Jimmy Hoffa, Russell Buffalino, and, crucially, the backing of the Chicago outfit. Ordinary banks were skeptical of casinos as wise investments, making the support of these influential figures a prerequisite for entering the lucrative casino industry in the United States. I will delve into the Chicago outfit's far-reaching power and unravel the intriguing web of connections that defined organized crime in this era. Continuing our exploration, we will delve into names like Bobby Baker, Jake Guzik, Tony Accardo, and Paul Ricca, unraveling the significant power wielded by these figures in Washington. When we intertwine the influence of the Chicago outfit with the New York Mafia, the sheer magnitude of their collective power becomes a formidable and frankly unsettling thought. As we conclude our examination of Chicago and grasp the extent of its influence, our narrative will shift to Florida. Specifically, our focus will turn to the Trafficante crime family, which held sway over the Sunshine State since the 1900s. Their operations spanned across Cuba, encompassing activities like narco-trafficking, gambling, and various other rackets. Understanding the historical backdrop of the Trafficante family is crucial to comprehending the intricate tapestry of their operations. Santo Trafficante Jr., a key figure in this crime family, maintained a complex history with the CIA. His involvement in Cuba, as well as his connections with the New York and Chicago outfits, adds another layer to our exploration, while we touched upon his history when discussing Charlie Lucky. Luciano, our journey will afford us a deeper understanding of how Trafficante operated within this intricate web of organized crime and intelligence connections. As we conclude our exploration of Florida and the Trafficante crime family, our narrative proceeds to the final chapter, focusing on Carlos Marcello and his role in the war on organized crime during the 1960s. This segment becomes a crucial juncture in our journey, as it leads us to a disturbing event, the assassination of a United States president. However, as we peel back the layers of this surface-level understanding, delving into the annals of organized crime history, a more intricate narrative unfolds. Within the FBI, certain agents were privy to the organized crime connection to the Kennedy assassination. Initially, they looked away, directing their attention to other significant threats, such as Castro and communism. By 1968, following the assassinations of Martin Luther King and Robert F. Kennedy, some agents could no longer ignore the reality. They chose to leave the FBI and collaborate with powerful magazines like Time and Life, leaking stories that exposed mobsters like Carlos Marcello, putting them under the spotlight. In response, Carlos Marcello orchestrated a counter-offensive. He enlisted Jim Garrison to conduct an investigation, ferreting out any potential informants and reporting them back to him. Every witness, from David Ferry to prostitutes and dancers associated with Jack Ruby, was eliminated, leaving no one behind to testify. Marcello's history proves pivotal in understanding not just organized crime, but also the depths of political corruption. To comprehend the motivations of the Kennedys in tackling organized crime, we must delve into the intricate history between Franklin D. Roosevelt and Luciano. This historical context sheds light on the Kennedys' strategic thinking and unique approach to confronting organized crime, ultimately dismantling the formidable Southern Mafia corruption machine. As I wrap up the Luciano story, the next mob boss on my agenda is Frank Costello. I want to take a moment to share the motivation behind creating this channel. My goal is to illuminate the history of organized crime and the insidious web of political corruption in which it was entangled. It's essential to comprehend the depths to which organized crime delved into shaping and manipulating political landscapes, even orchestrating the rise and fall of presidents. They weren't just makers of power. They were breakers of it. In essence, this channel serves as a vehicle to unveil the intricate connections between the underworld and political corridors, shedding light on a history that often operates in the shadows. Join me as we delve into the complex narratives of mob bosses like Frank Costello and unravel the layers of organized crime's influence on the political fabric of our past. Thank you for tuning in and subscribing to my channel. Your support is genuinely appreciated as we embark on this extensive journey together. I'm thrilled that you've joined us for what promises to be a deep dive into real history, exploring the true mob bosses who not only ran but also built the world of organized crime as we recognize it today. This journey will unravel the intricacies of their stories, shedding light on the genuine architects of organized crime. Once again, thank you for being a part of this exploration into the fascinating and often obscured annals of history.